In December 1929, the master architectural model maker John Thorpe was commissioned by the London County Council to build a large and highly detailed model of a proposed new road bridge over the Thames at Charing Cross. With an impossibly short deadline, Thorpe's team of 15 model makers set to work creating a true masterpiece, one of the most impressive and most accurate architectural models of the 20th century. But would the model be ready in time, and would it be enough to help secure support for the highly controversial plan it was made to illustrate? This is the story of an indisputably great model.
The London County Council had a problem. Having unveiled a hugely expensive plan to relocate Charing Cross Station to the south side of the Thames and replace the existing railway bridge with a new road crossing, they found the proposals being attacked from all sides when a bill to authorise its construction was submitted to Parliament in the autumn of 1929. The principal concern was not the bridge itself, but the sheer scale of demolition that would be required on both sides of the Thames to create the space for the road network to reach it. The plans and sketches of the proposal that the council had prepared were evidently not helping convince anyone of the scheme's merits, and so it was decided that a model might have better luck in swaying both public opinion and that of the MPs debating the proposal in Parliament. With such an important scheme's future hanging in the balance, there was only one model maker worth turning to in order to complete the job: John Thorpe.
John Thorpe had opened the London Drawing and Tracing Office in 1883, initially providing drawing services to the large number of architects based around Bloomsbury, before shifting almost exclusively to his main passion of making models. The first professional architectural model maker to successfully dedicate his entire career to the occupation and develop a thriving model-making business, by 1930 Thorpe had become an accomplished and well-known master of his trade, employing over 20 staff, all working at his workshops behind 98 Gray's Inn Road in Holborn. With over 40 years' experience making the finest architectural models available, Thorpe was the unquestionable choice to realise the Charing Cross proposal in miniature. The model needed to convey the grand vision of the London County Council's plans as accurately as possible, and the immediate challenge was the sheer size of the area of London that needed to be included. In addition to replacing the railway bridge itself, the proposal included new roads and embankments on either side of the river, a new railway terminus next to Waterloo Station, and a number of grand new buildings and public spaces. This meant that the model had to extend from the palaces of Westminster to Waterloo Bridge in one direction, and from Waterloo Station to Trafalgar Square in the other. Whitehall, Horse Guards, the Strand, Leicester Square, all had to be included, encompassing hundreds of individual buildings, both those that already existed and those that were planned. And, of course, the new road bridge had to be featured as the shining star at the centre of the model.
Having first established architectural model making as a dedicated profession, John Thorpe's standards were second to none, and he was meticulous in his pursuit of accuracy and detail. Here in the Thorpe Model Making Archive at Arts University Bournemouth, John Thorpe's own records provide a fascinating insight into the research he undertook in order to make the model as realistic as possible.
Between the plans provided by the London County Council and Ordnance Survey maps of the existing parts of London, Thorpe and his team were able to determine the overall road layout, leaving spaces for the individual buildings to be slotted into place. The model appears likely to have been made to the imperial scale of 1/32 of an inch to 1 foot, or 1 to 384th scale in metric, so while a relatively small scale, the model still required a considerable amount of detail. The architect Edwin Lutyens had been brought in by the London County Council to consult on the design of some of the grand buildings that would face the Thames on both sides of the river, and while these were not fully defined, provided enough information for Thorpe to create convincing representations of what was being proposed. Similarly, the bridge itself was well documented in the proposal, making it a fairly manageable task to create as a model. The biggest challenge was the rest of existing London, with hundreds if not thousands of individual buildings with complex profiles and roof lines to be modelled. For these, Thorpe purchased a set of aerial photographs of the area taken by Aerofilms in 1929. These helped the model makers work out the shapes and proportions of the buildings they needed to make, but also revealed the quite staggering complexity of the task before them. To complement the aerial photographs, and to clarify things where building and roof shapes were not entirely clear, Thorpe then dispatched his team to carry out a street level and rooftop survey, the photographs of which Thorpe annotated with the locations and even estimated measurements. Thorpe's payroll records show a large increase in staff during the making of the model over the first 3 months of 1930, bringing in regular freelance staff to complement his permanent crew of model makers, who were putting in over 200 hours of overtime each week just to complete the model. To make the buildings themselves, basic shapes were cut from timber and then dressed with card and paper facades that had each building's elevations inked onto them by hand. Columns, balustrades, turrets and chimneys were then added, with miniature trees and boats added as the model progressed. Time was not on the model maker's side, however, as both Parliament and the London press were clamouring almost daily for the model to be finished. The importance of the model was such that MPs began to complain that no decisions on the proposal should be undertaken until the model had been inspected. Finally, on the 25th of March 1930, the completed model was unveiled at County Hall on the day of a Common Select Committee convened to make a recommendation as whether to approve the proposal. Thorpe's model was a triumph, capturing the grandeur of the new bridge and Lutyens' buildings beautifully, and revealing how they would fit into the existing surroundings. After 3 months and thousands of hours' work, the model was now in the hands of the parliamentarians who would decide the fate of the council's ambitious plans.
Despite the impressive nature of Thorpe's model, the impact of the proposal was deemed to be too great, and as politicians so often like to do, the committee deferred its decision for a further discussion that never came, with the whole idea being quietly dropped the following year. The Charing Cross model was nevertheless a breathtaking achievement, but even a great model cannot overcome the flaws of an unwanted idea.